Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. In today's video, I want to share with you how I'm going to go about multi-tracking drums within Logic Pro. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'm going to do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I also have social medias under the same name as my YouTube. I have Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all under Daniel Yuck. I would appreciate the support over there as well. With that being said, let's get right on into this. Before we get into the technical mechanics of multi-tracking drums within Logic Pro, the workflow that I'm going to share with you can be applied to pretty much any DAW that allows us to use aux and sends. And I'm going to go ahead and touch base on all of that as well. So let's switch on over to the screen so that way we can get on into the technical mechanics here. Okay, so just to confirm, I am using Logic Pro. Depending on the version of Logic that you're using, it may look a little different from mine, but the concept should still be the same. The workflow should still be almost identical. So from here, I have Logic opened up. I haven't done anything yet. As you can see, I have new project, empty project. I'm going to leave everything default for now and output everything the same. I'm going to go ahead and hit choose. As we can see from here, Logic has created a session for me to start building off of. It is an empty plain session here, blank slate. First thing that I want to do is create a drummer. I need something that's going to go ahead and map out the MIDI for me, something that I can toggle and manipulate as I see fit to create the beats that I'm looking for. For this demonstration, I'm just going to use simple pop rock, and I'm going to hit create. So I have the session drummer, session player, drummer, pop rock. I'm going to hit create. Audio output is 1 and 2. As you can see, we have about an 8-bar loop right here. I'm going to go ahead and play that out loud so we can see what we're working with. Okay, so off the bat, the drums are sounding great. Although we're not going to use those drums, we're not going to use those sounds. We're actually going to do something a little bit different. This drummer right here, to my understanding, doesn't have multi-outputs. This right here is actually a MIDI bar. So therefore, we're going to have to kind of work around that. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to add another track. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select MIDI, and then I'm going to select software instrument. For this, I'm going to select empty channel strip, and then I'm going to go ahead and have output 1 and 2. I'm going to select create. As you can see, it created a track here. This I'm going to call drum track outs, as I'm going to go ahead and compile everything that I create into this track right here. So this is where we're at right now. I could even go ahead and right click and click my icons and then select a drum kit here, because that's what everything is going to consist of. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a drum kit that I'm actually going to record into the audio stems. So I'm going to navigate over here to this side of Logic. As you can see, I'm going to select drum kit. I'm going to go all the way down to multi-channel kits, and then from here, as you can see, I have a different assortment of sounds that I can choose from, different kits from heavy, 4 on the floor, Bluebird, 8-bit, Blue Ridge, and more. So I'm going to go ahead and just select a random one. I'm going to go ahead and double click on Retro Rock. It's going to load up the drummer, and what this is going to do is essentially going to load a multi-track drummer where the kick is mic'd up, the bottom of the snare, top of the snare. We get some room mics, we get some overheads. You get the idea. Every single part of the component of the drum kit is mic'd up. I personally love to approach it this way because we get so much more dynamic with the sound. It also makes our sessions not only look more professional, but we can get real specific. So if we want the kick louder instead of the entire kit, then we can do that. If we want to compress only the snare, we can do that. You get the idea. So from here, as you can see, we have the Retro Rock loaded up right here. As you notice, this track changed. It was a flat like this one. Now we have all of these tracks compiled in here. So as you can see, we have 25 different tracks, and they range from the overheads, the kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, tom high, we have a tom mid, tom low, tambourine, shaker, we have the hand claps, room A, B, we have leak, we have snare, kick, gated reverb, and so on. So everything is right here broken down into different individual, the way that I look at it is digital microphones. From here, I'm going to go ahead and start making this kind of flat. I want all of these to be unmixed because I want to do the mixing later after I record. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to select everything. I'm going to hit 0, and then I'm going to hit enter. So I'm going to start from here, 0, enter, 0, enter, just to kind of reset everything there. 0, enter, and you get the idea. So I'm just going to repeat that, make sure everything is at 0. I want to get rid of this mix that's already kind of pre-selected here and pre-done. Not that it's a bad mix, it's just not what I would want. Every mix is going to be different. And this is subjective. You don't necessarily have to do this. You can leave it pre-mixed if you like. That's going to be 110% up to you. There really is no right or wrong. Again, I'm just sharing with you the workflow that I take to stem out each individual digital microphone here. Okay, so we have all of the tracks even, everything's kind of flat. I'm going to go ahead and mute this one right here, and then I'm going to listen to this bottom track. If we notice there's nothing playing there, that's because there's no MIDI triggering these sounds. With this track right here, I can actually grab that and then bring it down to the bottom track and manipulate the top, or I can just simply drag it down with the new Logic update. That's going to be fully to each their own. But for me, I'm going to leave it on the top. I'm going to hit Shift, Option. I'm going to select this file. I'm going to bring it down. As you can see, we have a little arrow indicating that it's linked to the top track. What that means is anything that I do on the top track is going to reflect this one right here. And this is the sound that we are now working with. We get nice, big, booming, big room sounding drums. And if I go over here, I can kind of show you, this is what the overheads sound like. The kick, that's kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, tom. As you can see, so everything is there. Here is room A, room B. So everything is in correspondence to the digital microphones that are set up for this drum kit. So we're now at the point where all of the signal is flat, everything is as is. Let's say I've already created my drum loop. So I'm just going to use this drum loop for the example. I'm now at the point where I'm ready to begin tracking out these tracks right here. This is where things may get a little confusing and complicated, so just remain patient with me. And if you have to pause. If you have to rewind, please do so that way you can really understand the workings of the buses and synths, because this is, again, a little bit more advanced. Okay, so essentially we're all now set up. We could even get a little bit more organized and go ahead, I would go the extra mile and kind of start color coordinating everything here. So I'm gonna, if I unmute that, as you can see, it's all color coordinated here. I'm actually just gonna mute that so the color shows through, or I'm actually gonna bring the toggle all the way down to 0, so that way that track doesn't play, but the bottom one still does. I'm gonna come down here as well, and again, just color coordinate everything. I do feel like this makes it much more easier to work with. Bear with me here. And to do that, what you're going to want to do is select, right-click somewhere on the track. You're going to want to go to Assign Track Color, and then go ahead and assign the track color. As you can see, this one already has the track icons. And then I'm going to call these root drums, because those are the root drums. Those are the triggers that I'm going to be using for all of the patterns for the song. Okay, so from here, I need somewhere to send all of these signals. Now, as you can see, we have I'm going to count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I believe it's going to be 24 signals. So there's around 23 to 24 different outputs. There's a lot of different outputs, long story short. So I'm going to need around 23 to 24 different tracks to route all of those microphones to. Keep in mind, we're still working with MIDI. We have yet to convert any of this to any actual audio that we could further mix to our liking. We need to convert it all to audio. We need all of these microphones sending to each individual component. If we were in a real recording studio, if this wasn't digital, it would be identical to this. There would be a main room where the drum kit exists. Within that drum kit, the snare is going to have its own microphone. The kick is going to have its own microphone. Every single drum component is going to have its own microphone. Oftentimes in more high-end studios, there's even multiple mics for one component. So as you can see here, there's going to be a snare top and a snare bottom, kick in, kick out. You get the idea, overheads and room mics. So there are multiple components when it comes to drum kits. in a real setting, when we record a real drummer, all of those microphones are recording in unison to capture the entire performance as well as the room around it. That's the exact same thing with these digital drums. So therefore, we have to send them to audio still, regardless if they are digital. What we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and select the plus, and then I'm going to go ahead and select over to the audio area, and then from here I'm going to go ahead and just select audio, and then I'm going to put 24 tracks right now. And it's going to be 24 different audio tracks. So as you can see, now I have 24 different audio tracks that I can now send all of those digital microphones on over to. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I select all of these, and then I'm going to make sure that I color them in correspondence to the group color that I want. So for these, I'm going to do them a lighter pink right here. And I'm also going to go through and put icons for every single component. I'm going to label everything, which is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to do this here real time. I encourage you not to fast forward through this because I feel like every single step is important. It will get to the point where you know this process like the back of your hand. It's going to be really swift and smooth, but until we're there, I feel like we should kind of watch each and every step until we've learned it. Okay, so from here, what I can do now is I'm going to go ahead and right click after I've highlighted all the new tracks. I'm going to click Create Track Stack. I'm going to go ahead and do Summing Track, and I'm going to hit Create. What that did was it made a stack of 24 more audio tracks that we're going to convert all of our drum MIDI on over to audio. So I'm going to go ahead and title this. We'll go ahead and title this Drum Track Outs. And then this top one, we're going to title this one Drum Triggers. Okay. And then, or we'll just title this one Drum Kit because that's a drum kit that we're actually digitally recording here. So that one's going to be Drum Kit, Drum Track Outs. So we have the root drums that we're going to trigger all of the notes from. Each and every pattern is going to be done through here. Double click and then we can move these around. Those are rooted to here, so whatever happens here reflects right here. This sound is going to be outputted into here, and then we're going to record these MIDI into audio here, just to confirm what's happening here. Okay, so this is where things get a little bit more complicated. From here, I'm actually going to continue labeling everything first. I'm going to kind of mimic over here. So as you can see, we have overheads and kick and everything like so. Let me actually come over here. Okay, so I'm going to mimic or essentially copy here overheads, kick in, kick out, and I'm going to repeat that over here. So it's going to be overheads and then kick in, kick out, in, and then kick out, and then repeat. So come back over here. We have snare top, snare bottom, and hi-hat. So snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, and then you can just hit tab if you want to go on down to the next one if you know the name. Since I don't know the name, I'm not going to hit tab. And then after hi-hat, we have tom high, tom mid, tom low. So as you can see, I'm just simply copying them over. So tom high, tom mid, and tom low. Now, although every single microphone may not be captured, I still want to send all of the digital microphones. I can always delete what wasn't recorded later on. Whatever we're not using, we can get rid of later. So I'm not worried about that. I just kind of want to send every digital signal that's there. From there, I'm going to do tambourine, shaker, and hand claps. So from here, tambourine, shaker, and hand claps. Now, I know this may seem like a lot of work to some. However, if we were actually miking up a real drum kit, there'd be a lot more work involved. So I'm very grateful that technology has come this far. The next ones are room A, room B, and leak, L-E-A-K. But we can do room A, room B, room C. We can go ahead and do it like that if we want. But I'm going to go ahead and stick to the exact same names just for sake of sending. When I start sending signals, it's going to be easy to identify everything. And then from here, I'm going to do snare, kick, gated reverb. So snare, kick, gated reverb. And I know it may not make sense right now, but again, please stay with me, and all of this will make sense once we start recording and we get everything going. After the gated reverb, we have plate reverb, sub, and attack. So plate reverb, sub, and attack. Bear with me. Plate, and then reverb, sub, and attack. And there's only a couple of more here, and we're done with the labeling. From there, we can go ahead and do icons if we want. The next is going to be crunch and pump. So it's going to be down here. We're going to go ahead and navigate to the 23rd, crunch and pump. So that is all of them right there. So from here, we can even go the extra mile, which I encourage you to always do, and start changing these to the appropriate icons. So you can see I'm just right clicking on the icon area, and then I'm selecting the appropriate element. So I'm going to go to snare top, right click, navigate to drums, and then select the snare icon that I best see fit for each individual digital microphone. And then you can repeat that. Again, I know this may seem like a lot of work, but I assure you that it's not here. Now, I think that I believe the Tom High kind of just disappeared on me there. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is just come back right here, and we'll just leave it like that. I just duplicated it there, no issue. I believe it is still gonna be fine. And then continue here, and then tom low, and then tambourine. Click on the icon though. You have to right click on the icon for it to work there. And any sort of like sound like this, I'm just going to go ahead and select this drum machine here to kind of represent that drum machine triggering those sounds. And then for these rooms, I'm just going to use actual drum kits here to kind of symbolize drum kits. Leak, I'm going to do the same thing. As you can see, snare, obviously I'm going to select a snare. Kick, obviously the kick. Then the gated reverb, and all of these I'm going to go ahead and select this like little, maybe sort of like another drum trigger pad, something to that extent, just to have icons to kind of give me an idea of what is what. Now, from here, I know that this may seem pretty extensive, but again, once the process gets seared into our brain, it's pretty much home free from there. I'm going to go ahead and begin sending every single send or every single digital microphone from the drum kit on over to all of the audio tracks. So let's navigate on over to over here. So you can see we have the overheads, and then we have the kick in and out. Now what I'm going to want to do is on all of these, if there's any sends, you want to remove them. So we're going to go to bus, and then we're going to go to no send. So you're going to select no send. We're going to want no sends on these areas because those sends are what we're going to send to the other audio track. So if they're in use, then we're not going to be able to use them. So you want to go ahead and remove all of these sends here on the auxes here. So I'm going to go ahead and go down. You can see this one's on 15. I'm going to do no send, as well as all of these, no send, no send. And then I'm also going to leave all of these stock effects on the tracks themselves. I believe that that's perfectly fine. If you don't want the effects on your tracks, then I would recommend just kind of resetting the entire track and removing all of them, or just simply turning them off like so, if you're not wanting to have the stock sound. So if you didn't want your drums to sound like that, I understand. You can simply remove all the effects to make them dry. That's perfectly okay, and then add the effects later to the audio tracks. That is 110% acceptable. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this. I can fast forward through here, but you get the idea. So I'm just going to remove all of these sends here, so that way I can resend them. Okay, so it looks as though all of the sends have been taken off of these aux over here. As you can see, if I go through them, there are no sends on the aux there. Everything looks to be cleared. Now I'm ready to resend them on over to those to the audio tracks. So I'm going to start with this digital microphone right here, which is the overheads. And let's go ahead and select the send right here. So I'm going to navigate to the send. I'm going to select bus, And then from here, I'm going to select the first available bus, which is the 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click right here. I'm going to select 0 and then enter. I'm going to repeat that, going in correspondence, making my way on up. So the next send, bus 5. And this is also going to be 0. And then the same thing, the kick, we're going to go to send, bus 6. And that's correct. We're going to go ahead and hit 0. And then we're going to repeat this process. So send, bus 7, and then 0. You just want to make sure that your buses are going in the correct order. So as you can see that send went from 8 to 16. I didn't really worry too much about it. What I went ahead and did was just went to the next available bus, which was 16, 17, and I'm just going to keep it going. That typically indicates that the other buses or that one may be in use, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate like so. The points will still get a cross here. Just make sure that we're using and sending the correct sends to the correct locations. That's really the name of the game. So basically, we have the source audio, which are these digital microphones, and this digital multi-channel logic drum kit. And then we're going to make it into audio form by sending it from the initial tracks on over to new audio tracks. That's essentially what's happening here. It's almost the same process of recording live drums, where the signals get sent right from the drum kit itself on over into a console of some sort. And then 26. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to 27. And then we're going to hit 0. And then 28. You get the idea. And it is a bit of a process, but once you're done, you can actually save the template, so that way you don't have to do this. But again, as I've mentioned several times already, once you get it down, it's going to be really swift and really easy to set up. I have fun setting this up. I kind of feel like I'm setting up a real drum kit when I do this. I guess I'm grateful for how far technology has come here. So as you can see, I'm on that last send there. I'm going to navigate on over to pump. I'm going to go to bus. I'm just going to navigate here and head on over to bus 33. That's how you would go about that. So now I have all of these sent out here. So this entire drum kit right here has been sent out. It hasn't gone anywhere yet. Let's go ahead and allow that signal to be captured somewhere, which is going to be in the drum track outs below it. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to navigate to the overheads track within the drum track outs track here. And then I'm going to navigate on over to the input. So as you can see on this one, this drum kit, I'm going to go ahead and type in output so we know. And then on drum track outs, I'm going to type in input, because again, the signal is coming from here and going to here. So navigating to the overheads, I'm going to select the input instead of the sends. We're not sending any signals anymore. We need to capture them. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and select bus, and then I'm going to go ahead and select bus 4, which is overheads. I'm going to repeat that process all the way down. So kick, input, as you can see, kick in. And then I'm going to go ahead and input, and you can see everything kind of starts falling into place like a puzzle from here. Bus, this is going to be snare top, input, bus, snare bottom, and then we're going to go input, and then hi-hat, and then input, tom high, and then input, tom mid, and then input, bus right here. So we're selecting input, going to bus, and then I'm going to go to tom low. Next track, I'm going to go to input, bus, and then tambourine. So all I'm doing is selecting the shaker track, going to the input, and going to the bus, and then lining it up with the bus shaker. Hands, the same thing, bus, and then I'm going to do hand claps, and then room A all the way down. It's just going to be this process right here. It's actually pretty straightforward, and I hope by now it's kind of setting in. If it's not, then again, kind of like take a deep breath, take it back, and then take it from the top, and this will start setting in. I feel like this is something great to know. The kick as well, we're going to repeat that. And then bus, gated reverb, and then plate as well. And then we're going to go to reverb over here. Bear with me. And then I'm going to go to sub. And then I'm going to attack, tack, and then crunch to the crunch, and then pump to pump right here. So there we go. Now we have all of the audio from the drum kit output going into the drum track out's input. We are now ready to record. So if I were to go ahead and select record and then input right here, as you can see, it highlights every single element within the drum kit. So from here, what I can go ahead and do is hit R for record, and then it's going to send every single component on over to these tracks here, as you can see. All the way down. Although there may not be elements triggering every single digital microphone, they're still there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause that. And as you can see, if I come back over here and I mute the drummer output, I'm gonna go ahead and listen back. So now what we have, and it's important to remember this, is just the raw audio of the drums. From here we can add our own EQs, we can add our own compressions, we can add our own pans, whatever we see fit to optimize the drums as we want and need. So as you can see though, every single digital microphone has been recorded all the way down. So if I were to hit solo right here on the kick, you can hear that. Same thing with the snare. As you can see, leak right here, sounds like some sort of room A, as you can hear that. Snare top. Even just the raw audio, it's sounding great. Everything is 110% workable, nothing's clipping or anything like that. It's just raw, nice, clean audio there, which is what I want, which is a great foundation to work from. Now, we can do this with essentially any pattern that we create. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight these two. I'm gonna drag them on over because I already have that section of the song here. I'm gonna go ahead and loop this way. And then what I wanna do is I'm going to turn all of this off over here on this track, and I'm going to unmute this drummer over here, and then I'm going to play out a new track here. So I'm going to select some new patterns. Now let's see here, let's see kind of what this sounds like. Okay, so I love the way that that sounds. What I want to do now is the same thing. We're going to go ahead and select record right here. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and record this again. So I have everything already set up. Everything's already linked. So all I have to do is select the R on the main track right here. And it turns on every single digital microphone. From here, all I have to do is select R or hit R on the keyboard. And you can see, once again, I'm recording every individual drum component. Okay, so from here I can go ahead and go back. I'm gonna turn this off. I'm going to mute the output track for the drummer, and then I'm gonna go ahead and play just the raw drum tracks. Now, there is a tremendous difference in sound. So I know some of us are hearing the sound from this versus this. Now, the output track is more in our face. It has a little bit more clarity, whereas the input tracks are a bit more raw. There isn't as much in our face. Now, again, that is because we recorded the raw audio. All the effects we're doing were making this MIDI right here sound good. It wasn't sending in the output. So when we were recording, all we were doing was recording just the raw data of the MIDI triggers. We weren't recording any of these EQs or the chroma glow or anything like that. So we can go ahead and add that after. If there wasn't enough punch or anything like that in our drum, so for example, if we're listening to the kick and there's just not enough punch, then there's multiple ways that we can go about that, adding more compression. So for example, if I wanted to, I can go ahead and go over here, hit some audio effects. We can do dynamics. I'm going to go to compressor right here. And then from here, I'm just going to select a random preset for drums. So I'm going to select classic drums. And instantly you can see it. I have a lot more kick a lot more thump, a lot more in my face after that quick preset, after selecting that quick preset within the compressor. So again, if it's not really the way that we want, we can tweak to our liking because we have the raw audio, which is a great place, which is where we want to be when we're building a song from ground up. We always have, I would rather record the audio raw and have the raw data the way that we have it here than have the audio sent with the effects and have it recorded with the effects already, because if it's already compressed and I'm mixing and mastering, then I'm going to over compress, and that is a thing. We can do that. It's something that I want to stay away from. So it's better to have the raw audio so you can see before, after. Little choices like that. So go a long way. We can kind of do that with every individual component. So the same thing with the overheads. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do some audio effects. We're going to do same thing. We're going to do dynamics. We're going to add another compressor to start. And then from here, again, I'm just going to use a simple preset. Let's do classic drums again, just to kind of demonstrate here. And you could see that that is a lot more in our face, just making that one change. So that's after and before. Tremendous difference. This is, again, a great place where we want to be. I would much rather build like this and kind of tweak each individual component and have those sort of dynamics. So that right there is essentially how we are going to go about recording digital drums, multi-track out drums. Let me go ahead and repeat this a couple more times here to kind of drill this in. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring these on over. And this is the way that we would create this song. Of course, you know, all of them would be laid out. We can kind of just send them all together when we're done. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and break it down like this. The same thing would apply once we already have all the drums laid out. So real quick though, on a side note, if you're writing your songs, it's probably better just to use the root drums, map out the entire drum that you want, map out the entire song, and make sure all the MIDI is how you want it. Once it's how you want it, then you should begin this workflow and then print everything out to audio. That's probably the best way to go about it, I feel. I'm going to go ahead and go back over here. And then we can even change the drummer. So let's say if I change pop rock to hard rock, since I left this track here, I can change that, and it's also going to mimic over here. And then also, I noticed that when I would delete this and then bring this track down this way, we would lose the multi-output ability, which is why I'm leaving the root drums. So from here, I'm going to take a listen. Okay, that sounds great. I'm going to pick... Okay, that sounds awesome. And let me go ahead and... That sounds like a lot of energy. Let me see if I can do some toms. Okay, cool. So that sounds great. It's going to be the exact same thing. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to select the R. And as you can see, I have everything highlighted again. You just have to select the R from the main track here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select, hit R on the keyboard, and it's going to record and print everything for me from the MIDI to audio. So the way that I'm looking at it is it's more like a digital drummer, digital microphones printing out to audio here. So there we have it, and then from here I can go ahead and mute this track up top, turn these off and take a listen. And again, going back to those effects here. Before, after. So those are the overheads right there. With the compressor, without. Mixing could come later on, but the point is knowing how to do this. This is the process that is going to get repeated over and over and over until we've mapped out our songs. Now from here, you're going to notice that there are some tracks that aren't being used. So for example, the tambourine track isn't being used. I feel like we can go ahead and remove that. If shakers aren't being used, then we can go ahead and remove the shakers as well. If hand claps aren't being used, remove that so that way we can save CPU. Room B isn't being used as well, and neither are any of the gated reverbs or these, since we didn't capture the effects. Again, I just wanted to demonstrate setting up everything as opposed to kind of cutting corners and confusing you along the way. I feel like it's much easier to set everything up so that way everything 110% prints on over, and then we can just delete it here at the end. So you can see, even if I were to solo all of these, there's not going to be any sound at any point. So there's no point in keeping those tracks in the session. I'm going to go ahead and hit Command Delete to remove all of those tracks. And then what I am left with is just a compilation of drum tracks that have actual data that I can work with. This right here is how I go about multi-tracking drums within Logic Pro. Again, the workflow in terms of sending and receiving the signals is going to work the same in pretty much any DAW as long as you can send and receive signals within that DAW on each individual track. Now, that'll be it for this one. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'm going to do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I appreciate your time and I thank you for watching. You have a great day.